Hi everyone, this is Richard. I'm going to be using a different platform right now. This is going to be on openSUSE, just because I can, I guess. This is what I'm going to be using from now on. By the way, this is running on Hyper-V, on Microsoft's Hyper-V, and in a virtual machine. I think it's just easier to, because I have so much things on my desktop, it's just easier to videotape this and just do this video, okay? So, let's see here. Visual Studio, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, which is different from Visual Studio. So Visual Studio Code is an editor. Visual Studio is an IDE, an integrated development environment. What's the difference? Visual Studio is better for large group collaboration. Integration with GitHub is better. You could still do it here, but in Visual Studio Code, but it's easier, better on Visual Studio. And Visual Studio does better with bigger frameworks, like when we use Blazor or Maui. These are just frameworks with C#. Visual Studio will be much better, but just for learning purposes, I really like Visual Studio Code. One of the reasons, which is very simple, but you could just see things in the terminal. So console.writeline to hello world, and you could just do, we'll go over that in just a second. And it just runs it down here. It doesn't have a whole new window. You can do that with Visual Studio, I understand, but I couldn't figure out how to do it, all right? So anyway, if we're going to install this, Microsoft is a very good website and very good instructions. It's extremely simple on how to do. All you have to do also is install the C#, it's from Microsoft, the extensions, and the IntelliCode from Microsoft. I think that helps with autocomplete. I am not exactly positive if that's true. Then when you go to the terminal, you want to be able to, okay, right here. What you do is you type in .NET new console. What that actually does is it creates a console app, a new app, in the folder you are in. So I created a folder called apps, .NET new console. It'll just create a template for this new console, which the template is very simple. It's console.writeline. But more importantly, when you do write templates, you have all the supporting libraries and files, right? You'll notice here, though, let me close a couple of things here. You'll notice here also, there is this .VS Code, which we normally do not see. So you do have to have VS Code in order to run specifically with Visual Studio Code. What will happen is if you don't add that, which you don't by yourself add it, you just run the program and there will be a marker like right around here. It's a pop-up that says you need some extensions to run on Visual Studio Code. Do you want to add them now? Just click yes, all right? If you skipped it or something, you passed over it and you didn't do it, you close the whole thing down and you run it again, okay? You open it up and you run it again, okay? Couple of things that are a little bit different. Autocomplete is just not as complete. So you do have autocomplete, and if you're going to say something like int a equals 1, you would say int b. Normally here, Visual Studio would actually give you, say, equals 2 or something like that. It would guess what you want to do. Visual Studio is not as good. Visual Studio Code. By the way, Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code are completely unrelated. Why they named them the same thing or very similar things, I don't know. Many times we just call it code, but that's such a non-specific name. Forget that. I'm not going into that. You could push Control / in order to comment things out, Control space to do further autocomplete. I think it's the same thing with Visual Studio. So formatting, it's normally done automatically. You could set it up to do automatically. Otherwise, you right-click and you format document. So it's an auto-formatting system. I love that, by the way. And finally, Visual Studio does have the same thing. It's a shortcut. I don't know if I did this before. CW, hit tab, and then it's console.writeline. So it's used so often, there's a kind of a shortcut for both Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. Okay? So we're going to be using this from now on as we go forward. Thanks.